Item 4, community input process. And so, Matt, you want to take the discussion? This is initial discussion of the work plan item regarding community input, including ways to improve outreach to and getting input from neighborhoods and commission districts. Commissioners.
I pulled rank and got in at the beginning of this discussion because I was the chair of the original Communications and Outreach Subcommittee that we formed when we had the
30 members.
Yes, 30 members, and we had a trial commission. And at the time, the hope was that we would be able to develop a more formal process for doing outreach, because the goal has always been that the commission would be a means of information flow out to the community, but also a means of learning new issues that are coming back from the community and hearing from the neighborhood associations. And I had grandiose ideas at the time when we had 3 commissioners and we also had alternates, that perhaps we would be able to say one of those commissioners and the alternates could actively go out and visit meetings and things like this, and it very rapidly became apparent that nobody had the time to do that much. But we did produce a document at that time, and it should still be available with the office. Ernest has it. That was, best practices for communications and outreach. We need to revisit that again, because amongst other things, there are new tools that exist that didn't exist then. Other tools have changed. We talked about doing outreach to Yahoo groups. Nowadays, I'm finding Yahoo groups where moderators won't even let me on as a member of the Neighborhoods Commission. They're not interested in it. Nextdoor didn't exist at that time, and that's a major thing that people are looking at that as their way of communicating in their neighborhoods, and they're not interested in other things. So we need to look at that, and we need to look at, should we formalize something like commissioners within a district? We had talked about maybe you should have a quarterly or a semi-annual meeting where you do a formal outreach and say, anybody who's in a neighborhood group, you're welcome to come. So that we can tell you what we've been doing and you can hear our things. We will send out newsletters, but the face-to-face component is what has largely been lacking and what we need. So these were my suggestions. We talked about establishing an ad hoc committee to get together and review the existing document and improve on that, and also discuss these ideas. And that's where I'm going to leave it here and open it for discussion to everybody.
Okay, Juan?
So, is there a plan for a committee that will develop a recommendation similar to the one we discussed earlier?
That's basically what I was saying. Yes, is we can build on what we already had, and we can see if we can get a consensus on a more formal process.
I like the idea of a committee because I've seen all the great work you guys have all done.
Yeah, and it's the process is where it fell apart before. You could get consensus on, we found out there were very different ideas and very different things people did in every district for their outreach. Some districts had very strong leadership groups, others had leadership groups that had fallen by the wayside. District 6, he has an email address for nearly every neighborhood association. Other districts, not so much. Some districts, you have a lot of people that aren't even on computers, although that is less the case than it used to be.
So remind me, is there already a committee, or should I motion to create one?
We should create a committee now and get members who wish to be part of it, and then set up a meeting for this ad hoc committee.
We have a list of names for that committee.
We need to be careful about creating more subcommittees, I think, as Michelle has cautioned in the past, because of the charge of the Neighborhoods Commission, and making this the venue where these discussions happen versus setting off groups of people that may represent a smaller group in terms of what should be done or how it should be done. There's also no action item, no action to be taken, no vote to be taken on this item. It was just to discuss and talk about next steps. So if you're going to talk about a subcommittee, you should continue the item to the next meeting and talk about possibly having an action item at that time. So the way that this is agendized today, for purposes of Brown Act, is limited to the discussion and next steps on how to get where you want to get. But again, the caution with creating more subcommittees is still out there.
Well, we have discussed having an ad hoc subcommittee back when we did the work plan for this.
Right, and what happened, you missed the last month's meeting where it was pointed out that with an ad hoc committee delegated to go off and doing something, then it's just 2 or 3 people working on the stuff, and they miss out on the discussion from the whole community here, and we're supposed to be representing the whole community, and so if 3 people go off and discuss something, it might not reflect the whole community. That was the pushback that we got on it. It's kind of, on the other hand, there's also, people can go off and make a white paper and come in and say, we have this great idea, and pass it around. So there's an ambiguity there. Okay, I see 5 hands up at the same time. 6, 7, 8. I'll start at Joe.
So I recognize the issue, and I think it is a bit of form over substance, because at the end of the day, as you say, somebody can go through themselves and put forward something, and we can agendize it at the next meeting, and everybody goes and approves it. But I think if that is kind of ultimately the constraints we have to operate, then I would suggest that we change our rules and how we operate, and then we do not entertain any presentations by the administration until such time as we've had a chance to have our discussion. So that would be, the last item on the agenda would be, we can do book reports, but we're going to talk for 2 hours on doing work.
He's not serious about that.
I am.
Oh, are you?
I'd go for that.
Absolutely. If our goal is to get stuff done, we need time to get stuff done. And if
Right.
we spend 2.5 hours in our meeting, I would agree today was the best presentation we've had. But, we're having.
We still have another half hour, so we're.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend time worrying that we didn't have time to talk, but I want to do the talking. Let's see, Dave, did you have a comment? No.
I think there's comments, there's an elephant in the room, we'll hear it from somebody.
Okay, come on.
So I know that one of the goals of the Neighbors Commission is to be effective, and that we all as a group decided that that's what we should pursue. Past commissions perhaps had not been as effective. And I didn't necessarily hear a constraint from the city manager's office, I just heard some feedback. And so I like all of you, I appreciate the feedback, and I just think that we found that subcommittees are effective. In every case, the commission makes a decision, and we had some feedback earlier, right? And there was a motion to make an amendment. And so I think that we all do our due diligence and read the document and provide feedback. And I think that in a majority of cases, we will agree on a majority of the content. And so I don't necessarily think that we should refrain from being effective in allowing the subcommittee to draft a recommendation that will be reviewed, revised, and approved by the commission.
So, kind of like the previous one, this is a process question. How can we be more communicative? And unlike like homelessness or something like that, where it's a real issue, this is just our own internal process. So I think the subcommittee is actually very effective in that situation.
And, Nicole.
Hi, so we've proven time and time again that subcommittees work, and we all agree that they work. Considering something creative, as an experiment perhaps, working within the newfound constraint or dictate, we could do this in real time if each of us is prepared. So for example, one of us would volunteer to own the process, provide questions and everything, provide that to the public, and then each of us spends some period doing homework, give your community's feedback, and then that gracious one individual, unfortunately saddled with that duty because we can't form a subcommittee, apparently, would synthesize those materials, write it up. We'd talk about it at the next meeting, you'd see what you thought. But I think it's possible to do that, and it may be worth considering doing that, if only to force each of us to actually think critically about our own districts and how you would actually have the rubber meet the road. I think it would take an hour of the meeting, which I think would put a huge constraint on our ability to hear things like the gang. That was amazing. But it may be worth considering. And again, subcommittees work. I think we should find a way to continue to work with the city to ensure that we have that capability and that we use it as liberally as humanly possible. Thank you.
So I'm a newbie here, and maybe it's just a cognitive dissonance. I like the idea of going out and gathering input. My question is, I see that you have a work plan,
Yes.
and does this just double? I mean, if we go out and communities say, well, we want this, and we want this, and we want that, and that is, we want all these additional things, perhaps from us, from this group. How does that get put into a work plan?
Into the following year, or as added items on the agenda, since the work plan is not meant to entirely fill the agenda. The goal of developing the work plan was to halfway fill the agenda so that not everything happened at the same time, so that we would have time to put other things in as the topics came up.
And it is possible to jettison items from a work plan. We've had things brought before this commission before where they wanted us to discuss something and then somebody on the council literally pulled the rug out from under it. And it became we have nothing to do.
Pete?
We were told last time around that internal committees were okay. So as long as it's just the business of our work, this is what Michelle told us last time around, as long as this is just us talking amongst ourselves, we can have the subcommittees. So Gary's committee, we had 2 face-to-face meetings. I think there were 6 drafts of that document that you saw. It worked very, very well. If we're going to do something equally as important, and I'm with Matt on this, I think we need a structure like that where we can move quickly. And if that's allowed, we should use it.
Because we did a subcommittee to come up with the work plan too.
Yes.
Where we went around the table here and got 40 different things, then we sat down and narrowed it down to 20 things, then we had a committee that went down and came down to 12 things, and we came back here and...
Yeah, but that was before committees were banned.
That is true.
So,
And part of the thing was we chose so many things because we thought we could have committees to go off.
whatever, the pertinent point right here is for internal operations, we were told we were allowed to use committees. They
And
couldn't
we've
be
done
ad hoc
every
committees.
year in the past for budget, writing the budget letters too. We don't want
Separate
to try to
problem.
we can't write a letter real time here.
Yeah,
You
the
have
schedule went
one
on.
person or 2 or 3 people write some notes and coalesce it together, get input from everybody. The Brown Act is really confusing us because we have to do all of our work in public, but we can't, not everybody works in public like that. We only have so many hours in the time here to do it, so we can't wordsmith stuff, for example.
So let me offer something, because I think there's a misunderstanding of what I said. The caution that came at the last meeting from Michelle, and I'm echoing this evening, is a caution against creating a lot of subcommittees to address the meaty topics that you have in front of you, like those on your agenda today, where there should really be a discussion, and that's the whole spirit of the Neighborhood Commission. So that was my caution to Commissioner Whalen, I guess who wasn't present last time. But if that's what you decide to do, because it's more of an internal process and how you're going to do things, that is your decision to make. It's a caution, it's not a complete restriction. It's just this, to remain consistent with the spirit of the Neighborhoods Commission. So I hope that clarifies, because I think everyone is thinking that I'm saying you absolutely cannot do it, and that's not what I've said.
Okay, David.
I think the specific language in November was committees of this commission to deal with the caucus process, the work plan, and procedures and process of its business is permissible. Meetings of commissioners in discussing and preparing a position or a letter or something to bring to commission on issues of policy was not allowed, or it wasn't a caution, it was no. That was the impression we got. And the work process development paper that we initially put in spoke to ad hocs. After that, a follow-up was, an edited follow-up, I think it was dated December 2nd, 3rd, 4th, something like that, did away with the term ad hoc and restructured that to say a number of commissioners could research, study, analyze, and report on an issue of policy or otherwise, much as the council members come forward with a minority within the Brown Act to develop and produce a memo to the council. So members of this on policy, so could, and I guess the question's on the table, but nobody's come back to answer it. And I understood it was going to be discussed Friday in a meeting with the city manager's office, but I have not heard any reply to that. It doesn't sound like you're responding to it.
Okay, so that's a different issue than what we're talking about now, that the work product development.
Yes.
So that's being considered by the city attorney's office and city manager's office. It's not on your agenda for this evening, but my understanding is that we're still looking at the language raised in that, and we'll have some feedback in the near future. But just to reiterate what I said, I'm not sure what Michelle said, or I wasn't here to hear per se an absolute no on policy. But it sounds like that's not what you're talking about here. It sounds like you're talking about process and internal processes. So again, the caution was just an overall caution on subcommittees. It sounds like this would not be something that really is a meaty issue, if you will, that shows up on your agenda and something that would be concerning. So,
Okay, so we
you
have
want to
many
move
items
forward.
more on the agenda to go through too, so I don't want to spend too long, because I know some people like to leave exactly at 9, but, Juan, yes.
Yeah, me too. So just one thing that I think would be great to clarify is that I see a great difference between the commission meeting and deciding and directing a committee to draft something as opposed to two commissioners met and now they're proposing something. So I see a big difference, and so it would be great to get a better understanding if the caution is against the former or the latter. I suspect it's against the latter, like me and Mimi are gonna meet and come up with something for the next meeting, but we're not. And then the second thing is, so yeah, I definitely want to be effective as we agreed we should, and we want to create product and not extend it over months. And so I do motion for the creation of the subcommittee that Matt needs to draft this process, a draft of the process for review by the Neighborhoods Commission at a future meeting.
Comment
Can I
or
make
a friendly motion, or?
Can't
He
make
just
a
made
motion.
He just made a motion.
Yeah, you made a motion.
I just want to
It's
move
the
forward.
opposite
I don't know that
idea.
you can make a
Can I
motion.
make a
Oh,
motion?
you can't?
I don't know that you can make a motion.
I'm out of order, so I'm trying to understand.
I'm trying to understand.
Oh, the motion gets made and then I can make some.
If there's a
If
motion and
there's
you
a
second,
second.
and then you can have a substitute.
I'll second it,
Okay.
I'll second Juan's motion.
Okay, so there's a motion that Matt will form a subcommittee, or an ad hoc committee, you'll just meet with some friends over a few pints and write something down and come back? Is that
There we
what you're
go.
suggesting, or what, I don't,
Only if
you want to be formal?
Yes.
in?
Cool, fine.
Pipe emitters.
I think there was a second.
Make it less than 10.
There was a second.
Yeah, there is a second, so that's the motion and it's a discussion, and so you want to discuss, so,
I don't want to just,
Sure, it's
I want
friendly.
us to do a substitution.
okay, so what would you?
I would vote no on that, and I have a
And what would you
substitution.
substitute?
Is this the correct format?
I think so. Isn't it? I've seen,
I think you have to vote.
I know,
Do another motion.
no, I've seen at city council,
Yeah,
so
friendly
there's a
amendment.
substitute motion.
What's the
It's a friendly
substitution? Because I
amendment.
just
Got
want to move forward.
I
and
understand. I
Maybe I
want-
support
Try to use that
you.
term.
And it's exactly that. It's something else for the folks to consider.
Right, so this is fair to consider a substitute motion, okay.
If I can speak?
Yes.
So I propose that we do what I said earlier, which is do it in real time. So take half an hour of an upcoming meeting, and each of us, one of us volunteers to lead the effort, provide forms, I guess, with questions on how your district communicates, and then that person, someone with experience in this, writes it up, and it would take a little bit longer. I think, but I think it would also be like, true to the spirit, I guess, of what we're trying to accomplish here. It would be different. I think it would break things up a little bit, and I think it would be interesting. So that is my proposal, that we do this in real time over the course of the next 3 meetings in a public forum.
I like the spirit of it, but my experience has been that if a committee drafts something, we're gonna spend a half hour anyway. But my experience has been that it's been much more effective for the draft to come first, because then we're not word proofing and trying to draft something in real time,
Yes.
which could take about 6 hours. We're instead just refining something and making it better. Either way, I just wanna move forward and
Agreed.
empower the commission.
We're just being bold here.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, all right.
So the idea, in the aerospace thing, you have a concept of a straw man you put out there. Everybody shoots arrows at it, and then you come back with a second version that is refined, and then finally end up with the final product. So I think your idea was to come up with the first ideas to present to us. Not going to be, this is the finished product, accept it, but this is something to shoot arrows at and refine.
And there was a list of people who actually volunteered for this back when we were doing the group plan. And it was me, Terry, Pete Kolstad, Nicole, and Marie.
So you guys want to get together and, so you want to, was there a second to the alternate motion? Okay, it died. Okay, so we'll go back to the original motion then. Is that the proper way to do it? Okay. I did read Robert's Rules of Order once. I forgot.
I'll second the suggestion.
Too late.
Let's move on.
Too late. So there's
Forward
a,
reaction.
I'm going to get us going on this thing. I mean,
Yes.
the idea was how to communicate with everybody else.
Sure.
It depends upon what your districts are like. Some people work well with their council members. Some districts work in opposition to their council districts. In my area, the district thing was made 20 years ago in opposition to the council member. They never got around with it, working with it ever since. Been 4 different council members. It varies how it works. You know, just
We need to vote.
I'm sorry.
I call for the question.
You're calling the question, okay. So we're going to have a subcommittee consisting of a few people. He will get in contact with them and exchange information. So all
I
in
just
favor?
want to,
Oh, yes.
I just want
Discussion.
to make a comment real quickly. And maybe I'm the only one who's finding all of this ambiguous as to the new constraints on us as a commission. And I'm just concerned that after we have this vote, that we are going to hear that we are again in non-compliance with what the city perceives as the Robert's Rules of Order. I just want to make that comment.
You can point at me. I will take this. I'm good.
So since this is just of our own process, it's not a public discussion on a policy, that was my impression that it's okay to have people come draft suggestions for discussion at our
Since
next
it's a
meeting.
group that would be smaller
Yeah,
than
and
10,
it's less-
not a
and
bunch
it's-
of action.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, one opposed. You noted? Abstains? Care to discuss?
I think Desiree wants to do my idea.
So Desiree Franklin, District 3. I think that as community leaders and neighborhood commissioners, that each and every one of us should know our districts. We should be doing our homework monthly, weekly, daily. So we have this knowledge. When we come to this meeting, we know each and every section of our district. And yeah, some districts are bigger. Maybe that's not entirely possible, but I guess we can consider them hotspots. If there's an issue in a district, that's a hotspot. Whether it's illegal dumping, whether it's gangs, whether it's everything under the sun. So that's why I'm sorry.
Okay, so this was kind of trying to figure out how to get that information. So this
We
is
should
trying
have
to,
it.
we should have it all, we should already have
Yeah.
it, but this is to reinforce.
Reinforce and slightly more, make it slightly more formal that people need to do that.
Don't want to make it too formal, we want it to have some flexibility, but,
Can I speak?
please.
I was under the impression that all of us are attending our community meetings.
Yes.
And so that we know what is going on currently and in the future. So that's what I do. And so when we're saying we need to make a committee, I'm thinking, well, I know what's happening in my community. I can bring that information to you guys.
His community, the
It's
whole.
not like us have like more
It's not
than
up.
one organization within.
Well, in our area, we have two groups that meet, actually three groups that meet simultaneously on the second Wednesday of each month. So we're all there and we're all discussing the issues that are going on in the community, and some of us direct who should do what, and then, you know, but I'm familiar with the information and the issues, so, yeah, for me, that's how I thought that most of us are doing.
So in District 6, we have about 24 neighborhood associations, and we meet the 5th Tuesday of every month, which happens about 4 times a year. And the different neighborhood associations discuss issues for the whole area, but we also have a joint email group where people send out reports to everybody, and everybody hears it. So I post the District 6 take on this thing to the District 6 group. I post notes on different meetings that I go to. I read the notes that people that go to other meetings and post notes on things, because nobody can go to every meeting in the city. There should be things. And so it's an exchange of, it's an email group for, I think there are 100 and some people on that email group of all the different neighborhood associations and board members and other people. So that's how we do it in our area. We do it electronically and meet in person 4 times a year. So,
Yeah, I think.
but I hear from some people that they don't even know there is a neighborhoods commission or who their commissioners are. So this is to encourage the rest of us to reach out to theirs. Now, I recognize District 6 right downtown. We've been funding City Hall for 20 years. We're getting good at it. This is new to some of the other areas, and so we're trying to figure out how to.
And the shorter answer to this is when we originally looked at it, we found out every district was different.
Sure.
Every district had different situations. Some had strong leadership groups. Some had neighborhood associations that never met. So you need to have outreach that's effective for all districts, and you need to have strategies for that.
So
That's what this was about.
So can the city develop outreach, maybe newsletters or posters or banners?
So it's not for the city to do, it would be for us.
That's the purpose of this.
That's the purpose of this subcommittee, is to try to figure out how to recommend to us,
For us to be more effective.
to exchange best practices, to say, these are the things that have worked here, have you tried this, or this might work there. I don't want to talk all the time. Nick?
Quick comment. One person I've learned the most from is in this room is as far as communication is Swan. So I think that this will be really great, this motion carried, and that we'll all learn from each other on this. I want to pick on you too much, but in a positive sense. It does such a great job of outreach with everything from surveys through leveraging United Neighborhoods. His meetings are highly organized. I've learned a ton from that, and I've incorporated some of it. I wish you could say I incorporated all of it in my outreach to 50 different neighborhood associations, some of which sort of meet once in a while, some that are very, very active. So I think this will be a really great exercise, and I can learn from you also as far as how you kind of cut to the chase into the heart of it in a part of the city that has been underrepresented here certainly, but is lots of others. So I think it's going to be a good engagement that you all share.
I just want to say thank you for the kind words, and I think that this discussion was great, and I think that some of us have the benefit of having witnessed the Neighborhoods Commission before we refined our workflows. And I remember before I was on the commission being at a meeting where we had a different type of process, and being one of the people imploring the Neighbors Commission to just do something, right? Stop talking. You need to just make a decision. And we've come a long way. we're all spoiled now. We all work effectively and get things done and accomplish a lot of work products, which is what the city council expects. And so that's what I mean. I don't want us to sit here for 1 hour, talk about something, and then next meeting fine tune some words. That just didn't work, and it's what we've moved away from. And what I see in every committee product is a further refinement, a further improvement. We're just getting better and better, and I just want to keep going down that path.
And I remember going to your District 5 neighborhood group and giving a presentation of what the neighborhood commission is. So that might be something for others to explain how the neighborhood association, how the neighborhoods commission.
And I don't see us being efficient, being necessarily not engaging with the community. That's separate, right? We're still going to do both.
Other comments? Okay, so we have a committee. Matt is going to get in touch with a few people. Anybody is free to write to, write to NC staff to forward to information to the committee. So if you have comments, write to, do you read NC staff address, or is that Michelle only?
Right now it's Michelle, but it's probably gonna go back to hers.
Okay.
But it's, yeah, she's got access to the mailbox.
Okay. So that's community, that was discussion and development of the next steps. So the next steps is you're gonna come back next month with some thoughts.
And I will, through NC staff, get a time where the people who had already volunteered can meet.